Hi, I'm JoAnn Hines, Packaging Diva, and I'm so happy to have you all here today and looking forward to sharing a lot of great information with you. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm JoAnn Hines, the Packaging Diva. I'm well known in circles on the internet as Packaging Diva, so you can pretty well look me up there using that name. I'm a consumer products packaging and branding expert. I've been doing this a long time, so I'm happy to share my information and insights with you today. I will ask you if you will hold the questions till the end of the presentation, because I've got a lot of information to get through today, and I want to make sure I can get it all done and in time, and give you some time for questions at the end. Welcome to Does Your Packaging Speak Human? Information overload. We all suffer from it. The average person is bombarded with excess of 3,000 marketing messages a day. TV, internet, radio, shopping, you name it. You see it everywhere, and it's just, in many cases, too much. I put together a little word cloud that shows you some of the recent and current phrases that are tugging at the hearts and minds of consumers as it relates to packaging, and hoping to capture your interest and make a sale. Things like innovation, marketing, green, sustainability, you name it, it's all out there. What influences you today may not be the same as tomorrow. With so many competing messages attempting to persuade you, how can you ensure yours is the message that resonates? First, think like a consumer. We all get caught up in the creative aspects of packaging: design, color, shape, innovative packaging materials, but sometimes we lose sight of what the consumer really wants. Money spent in creative design and innovation don't necessarily equate to success in the market either. A few well-known companies have spent serious packaging development bucks and come up with disastrous results. Most recently, we saw Coke introduce a white can for the holidays, trading on their cute and cuddly polar bear that has done so well with them through other marketing methods. The problem is consumers were confused. Using the white can for cause marketing, people thought it was Diet Coke, and it became a very short-lived campaign that only lasted a month, and then they went back to the traditional red can. So what went wrong? Consumers expected one thing and were surprised when they got something else. Here's a clear case of consumer identifying the brand and sending the wrong signal to the consumer. More famous packaging examples that missed the boat entirely. You all know about Sun Chips. It was all in the news, everybody ranting and raving about how loud it was. The interesting fact is that years of consumer research went in to solve a consumer desire, but it went unexpectedly bad. Consumers loved the packaging concept of compostability, but they hated the ultimate result. In this case, the company thought that they were speaking to the consumers, but the message that they received was garbled. Consumers thought they understood the compostable message, but the reality was something different. Okay, hopefully I got a message that the sound was a little loud, so hopefully that helps. Here's another example. Who can forget this? The media loved this, but the company didn't. And it was on the most tweeted packages too. Rebranding can be very touchy. And consumers are expecting their product to look a certain way and in a certain place. Very few brands can successfully compete a major overhaul without some consumer fallout. And in this case, when Tropicana took away the orange with the candy cane, they lost 20% market share during that adventure. So there's a lesson to be learned. Thousands of new products are introduced every year, more than 15,000 to be exact, and that's a scary number. How can your product compete, not only with established brands, with the plethora of new products that are being introduced? The answer, of course, is the packaging. The right packaging with the right message will rise above the competitive landscape. But how many companies truly understand the value behind packaging as a marketing tool? Most just look at it as a way to convey the product or recycle tired images or product packaging that doesn't work. Understanding the complexities of how a package reaches out to a consumer is one of the most important things to understand. Communicating that message on product packaging is a time-consuming and difficult challenge. The answer derives from understanding what the consumer truly wants from their product packaging. A good way to assess this problem is to look at how and where you shop. What compels you to look at a new product? Is it shape? Hold on a second, we're having a problem here. Whoops. Is it shape, color, design, verbiage, interaction? Most consumers shop by rote, so what drew you to pick up the packet, to pick it up and take a closer look? The answer may be different for you than any other member of your family, but the message is the same. You were intrigued enough by whatever that made you pick up the product and take a closer look. That's the sensation you need to create, and that's also half the battle won, because your product will never sell if someone doesn't pick it up in the first place. So take an honest look at your product packaging. Is it working to its best advantage? Are there changes that you've put off making due to lack of time or money, or simply not knowing what to do? Implement a plan to change and look at one product at a time. An important factor to consider when you're doing this is don't make changes just for change's sake. That only serves to alienate the consumer. The consumers hate being able to go to the store and not find their favorite brand. Look at the previous examples when they made branding changes and see what happened to their brands. Look for good packaging examples. There are so many good examples out there that it's hard to select one, so I decided to use one from a hot packaging category, liquor, and one of the Twitter community's favorite. I also happen to like the name, Diva Vodka. Liquor packaging is undergoing a transformation with continuous new product offerings. It is not uncommon to find designer packaging along with designer prices, but it compels the consumers to buy, so it's worth the extra expense. In this case, Diva Vodka, this is a Swarovski crystals, but they also have ones with embedded precious gemstones and sometimes even thousands of dollars per bottle. The point is, each type of vodka or each type of liquor has created a distinct point of differentiation through their product packaging. That's the same message that you need to incorporate in your packaging, speaking to your core consumer. Now, speaking of compelling, would you buy this garbage? Here it is. A packaging defies logic, but yet it sells a lot. It's an interesting concept, and I love this because if you can package garbage, you can package and sell anything. So recapping why and how packaging works as a sales and marketing tool. It sends the message to the consumer whether or not they will buy the package or not. It's up to you, the product manufacturer, to determine the correct message, what the correct message will be, and who your audience is. Think about this, egos aside. Would your packaging make someone desire to take a closer look? Remember, it's the packaging talking here. It's the one that's doing the marketing about what's inside to the customer. You need to drill this into your brain. When you're designing your packaging, the first thing you need to think is why. Why would someone want to buy me? So keep thinking about that message as you make and consider any kind of changes. Evaluating or developing product packaging with the consumer in mind is your first step in creating a package that markets to all the product attributes and engages the ultimate consumer, the decision maker. So don't get concerned if your package doesn't do all of the above. It only takes one unique attribute to intrigue the customer to take a closer look. Of course, the more needs you can fulfill, the better the connection to the consumer. That's human speak. The consumer connection is what you're trying to create. So think outside the typical design behavior and solve the hidden need that will make consumer want to buy your product and not the competitors. So what constitutes a compelling packaging brand? And how connected are you to your core consumer? Here's a few emotional descriptors that every package must try to convey. Does your packaging engage, invoke, engross, and show trust to the consumer? Let's first look at engage. That is, to attract or hold by influence or power. Can you say that about your product packaging? Or is your product packaging just the opposite, boring? Think about what you can do to improve the odds that your package will engage a consumer. Colors, features, shapes, value, and benefits are all ways to reach out with your package. New technologies such as intelligent packaging, innovations like QR codes can now do all that for you, provided you craft the right message. Evoke. That is to call forth as invoking memories. What about your package will make a consumer recall a successful or enjoyable experience? How can you make them remember that they were satisfied when they bought your product? In case they haven't purchased it before, what's going to connect them with your product packaging? What's so special about your package that they have to take a closer look? Engage, engross, to engage the whole attention. That is the key point. You have to get their attention to pick up your product before they can even consider buying it. Use features that will capture their interest in seconds, because that's all the time you'll have before they get going and move on. Another feeling word that conveys a strong and compelling brand is trust. You must create a place where people look for information and feel more secure in doing so. It's important to understand the strength behind the brand and why people turn to it for a sense of security and information. So what about your product packaging conveys the experience that consumers can trust your brand? Once you lose that game, it's over. Regardless of the reason a consumer may be in the store looking at your product, introduce them to a lifestyle experience. Trust, security, necessity, or even peace of mind. Your package needs to call out, "Buy me," because I provide the experience of all of the above. But the best of all brands cross over gender, ethnicity, and age demographics. That's a very hard accomplishment, but if you can, everyone will recognize and identify with the brand. There is no universal package that identifies with everyone, with possibly a few exceptions. However, there are universal packaging truths that apply to almost everyone. Convenience. We all want more and more convenience, despite the fact in many cases that it uses more packaging. This produces a packaging conundrum because people want more convenience, they want easy access, they want things sometimes in smaller quantities, and yet it uses more packaging. So be sure you're reaching out to your consumer when you design your packaging for convenience purpose. Make sure you understand their ultimate needs. Time. Everyone has so little of it. How can your packaging make someone's life simpler? You look at this example. I mean, it's bacon and eggs and skillets with hash browns or ham or something like that, ready to use, but literally it's flying off the shelf because people even can't take the time to make those simple, cook each one individually, and here they have it all together in one package. Changing lifestyles. I read some interesting statistics lately that families rarely eat together. That, coupled with on-the-go lifestyles, impact what and how we buy. Think about things like the new category of cups of snacks for car travel. And here's another example about single-serve wine packaging, where people can take a single glass on the go and move about whatever without having to haul a bottle of wine. The environment. I used to consider environment as a trend, but I've moved it into the universal category. Now we all want more environmentally responsible packaging. The problem is that no one truly knows exactly what that is. But it's up to you to find out what your consumers' thoughts are in regards to environmentally friendly packaging. Is it something that they really desire, or is it just something that's on their wish list? Along with all of these issues and universal truths, you have consumer hot buttons. The holidays are particularly relevant for hot buttons because packaging is in the news with all the holiday excess products, people saying going to the hospital, how many people have cut themselves, and so on. So one of the hot buttons this is all year, but especially in the holidays, is hard to open packaging, particularly the clamshell. There's been quite a number of products out there that have tried to solve this problem, but no one has truly come up with a successful response to the plastic clamshell. Packaging shrink. This is not a new phenomenon. It's just that consumers right now are paying a lot more attention. It's been going on for years, and what's happening now is consumers are looking at it as they're looking and checking prices and looking at things. They're actually noticing when sizes are changing or when they're getting less product for the same amount of price. So that's something you don't want to alienate your consumer if you can help it. And here's a good example: the same bottle, same smaller bottle, but everything's the same price. Misleading messages. This is one where really the government has stepped in and has really started to scrutinize product packaging claims about healthy eating, about organic foods. Any claim that can't be substantiated, you need to steer clear of putting on your product packaging. The FDA has been sending out letters right and left on a lot of these products to keep people from saying they have to actually change. Another one is Yoplait yogurt and also Activia yogurt. Literally there's not a single category that's not being attacked and looked at and scrutinized by not as much the consumer but from the regulatory agencies. Information overload. I'm in the business and I know what all these statements mean, but do you? And this is just a small example. I read somewhere recently that there's thousands of environmentally friendly icons and statements and things like that that people are using on their product packaging. The key issue here is, does your consumer really care about it? There's only so much space to craft your message, and it better be the right one for your core audience. Meaningless details just detract from your message. Last but not least, think about ways to improve your product packaging. Make it easier for consumer to use, carry, find, store, open, learn important information. Some of the simplest innovations can revolutionize an industry. Those of you, I'm sure you all are aware of Sargento. It's been over 25 years since Sargento introduced the reclosable cheese, first reclosable zipper on cheese packaging. They literally changed and created an entire category, and the rest is history now, because virtually every product out there has some type of resealable zipper. So are you ready to create your life-changing packaging like Sargento? Another important factor is to think about trends. I couldn't put them all on here because there's so many packaging trends. Trends can be short-lived, or they can be a long-term indicator. Just as I indicated earlier that environmental used to be a trend, now it's mandatory. And with all of these things here, you know, you need to just look at them and see how important it is to your particular consumer. You know, are they looking for brands? Are they looking for private label? Are they value conscious, or are they looking to save money? The intelligent or interactive packaging trends right now, with the QR codes and with all of the things that are the mobility issue, where people are moving and are looking and are carrying their iPads and their smartphones with them. Another trend is personalization, the me generation, where people want things specifically for themselves. There's so many out there. I just want you to make sure that you have to evaluate all your trends as you're designing your packaging and find out which ones are truly important to your consumer. Last but not least, here, external influences. I'm running out of time here, so I'm not going to be able to explain all of them in detail, but literally legislation changes overnight. You know, all these bag bans and mandates, or people are saying they don't want this kind of packaging or they don't want that. Recalls really are, you know, hot in the minds of consumers with the salmonella. So security and safety issues about being able to track and trace your product packaging. The bans and mandates that spring up literally are maybe regionalized, or sometimes could even be in a whole state. The consumer sentiments, consumers who get on a tear about particular product issue. You know, one I think of all the time is the Great Garbage Patch, which is a very catchy phrase, and, you know, relates to plastic packaging, and people are really, you know, talking about the disposal issue and all the waste in product packaging. So those are things that consumers are near and dear to the consumer heart. And last, technology that doesn't work. You know, don't try something that hasn't been well thought out and well researched. Worst thing that can happen is to use a technology and then have it fail, and then it's a disaster. So remember to think about packaging at all touch points. Disposability has become a big issue, so, you know, buzzwords like reduce, refill, reuse product packaging are something near and dear to consumer minds. So step back from your product packaging on the product shelf at least 5 feet. Does it stand out among the competition, or is it awash in a sea of sameness? It's difficult to distinguish one product from another. Is there a unique selling proposition that makes your product more interesting or more consumer friendly? If I had to pick one best single emotional response to give your brand, it would be to engage. People are connected to the brand at all levels. That's a great position to be allied with. So that's what you need to do with your product packaging. You have the brand statement behind you. Now you need to engage the consumer. When you capture the power of the package, people will integrate your product into their everyday life. It will not turn it into an inconvenience, but a necessary for comfortable living. So create your own story through powerful product packaging. Whatever your category, you should strive to engage, evoke, and engross the consumer to revitalize your brand. Whether you can accomplish all these tasks or just a few, the most important issue is you decide to move forward one packaging step at a time. Let's face it, consumers are a fickle bunch. It doesn't take much to turn them off to your packaging. In fact, you only have 2.6 seconds to turn them on. So that's how long you have to persuade them to buy your product. And the only way to do that is to create a compelling packaging brand. Yes, your package is your #1 salesperson, and once you have lost the opportunity, you may never get it back. When your packaging speaks human, you will have a customer for life. Sorry. I'm ready for questions if you want to start sending your questions. Okay, we have a question here. What are some of the most common pitfalls in designing consumer packaging? The one pitfall that I find that is most common is the fact that people don't think about product packaging at the very beginning of the process. That is integral to having a successful packaging, is thinking about it as you're designing the product, creating the product, whatever it is you're doing. You need to be thinking about it at the very beginning, not halfway through the process, or not when somebody says, oh, we need a package, go out and find something. And it's really, really important to think about it throughout the entire process. Have any more questions here? Why do consumers, here's another good question, why do consumers love some packaging and why do they hate others? That's a hard question to answer because it's hard, like the garbage example. Why do consumers buy packaged garbage? It's a conundrum. I mean, it is garbage, so what makes them want to buy a box of garbage? It's something about the package that compels them to look at it, to say, ooh, this is interesting, this is intriguing, I need this, I want this. At the same time, consumers, when they buy product packaging, particularly, I hate to go back to the dreaded clamshell, but it's one of the consumers' hottest buttons is trying to open clamshells, and they don't understand that there's a reason behind why all of the products are packaged that way. So our industry, the packaging industry, really doesn't do a good job in explaining that to consumers. They just think it's very negative about product packaging. Okay, here's another question about clamshells. Most of the clamshells are sonically welded, the ones that you cannot get open. A lot of reason behind that is actually product integrity, product security, particularly in a lot of small items that are in clamshells, where they want to keep people from, unfortunately, being able to steal them. It also, you see clamshells that have a foot on the bottom or have a way for it to stand up and be merchandised. The visibility of a clamshell is par excellent, and there's no other really product packaging out there that gives you the visibility, and in fact the clamshells can actually fit the shape of the product, so it makes it a very exceptional merchandising tools. A lot of people are trying to work with what the most common change right now for the clamshell is to reduce the profile. So instead of having a gigantic clamshell encompassing everything, people are making a smaller clamshell and then using like a paperboard substrate to tell the rest of the story, so the size of the clamshell is actually being reduced. I've seen some zipper features that allow you to zip the plastic clamshell almost like with a tear tape feature. Unfortunately, a lot of the attributes that are added are also added to cost, so that's something that the consumers also need to be aware of. Oh, Bill says here that I have seen that perf weld, so it's just not that common because, again, every incremental feature that's added to the product packaging in many cases adds to the cost. More questions? Okay, here's one. Does shelf positioning at a store can also give negative brand feedback, and how can that be measured? Well, One thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure you all have noticed, that now what's happening with private brands, like for example, if you go to the supermarket, it used to be all the branded products were right in front of your face, and you will you know, obviously pick the ones up that are at eye level first. Now what you're seeing is their store's own brands are being merchandised at that label, and the branded products are either being moved up above or below for you to have to actually look for them. So that's something that companies are doing, particularly with the private label brands being so successful, is spending more shelf space in merchandising their own products than merchandising the consumer goods products company products. Hold on. The media. Why does the media hate packaging? Well, the media loves negativity and stories, you know, and the talking about how many people have gone to the hospital with cut fingers trying to open clamshells, or how many people, you know, went into a tizzy over trying to open something that has twist ties on it, or in the case of the Sun Chips, how noisy the package was. That's just big news stories, and the more negative it is, the more exposure and visibility they get. So they get on a rant about product packaging, and it is really difficult to get the media to look at something from a positive perspective, particularly at the holiday time, because they just get so much more traction on the negative sides of product packaging. I'm looking at questions here in case there are so many on here. Okay, here's a good question, because I actually spoke about this at another event. How important is it for secondary or tertiary packaging to engage the consumer? I did an actual presentation for the operations and fulfillment department, where most of what they do is mail order, and I talked about how just the everyday shipping container can engage the consumer. From one company called Moose Jaw Madness, they actually put all kinds of fun and funny stickers all over their packaging, really, and it's just a brown box, and really engaging the consumer and getting them to smile and think and laugh. And then they follow that through inside with some other handwritten notes, some little clever sayings, cards, things like that. You also see people using things like colored tissue paper and, you know, very nice inner packing, not just the plain old brown shreds, but something with color. So there is that feeling of touching the consumer, as I said earlier, at all touch points. So even though it's just the shipping container, you're still building that brand image throughout the entire process. Okay, I'm looking through the questions here. Oh, here's a good comment that I didn't see earlier about the that the retailers on the packaging for the clamshell, which was really good, about the fact that retailers didn't want packages that were easy to open. Let me scroll on down here. What's the future? Here's a good question. What's the future of green and sustainable packaging? Well, one thing that I can definitely say is it's here to stay. So it also is something that everybody needs to address. They need to look at how that fits their own, within their own brand. I mean, if you're selling a natural product or something that's environmentally friendly or geared toward the sustainable market, you know, organic foods, you definitely need to have green or sustainable packaging in your equation. The problem is that there's not all that many materials yet that have been developed to solve the problem. So maybe you don't need to look at the material itself, but you need to look at what the package does after it's been purchased, a secondary purpose, or how easily it can be recycled, or how easily it can be repurposed, or what you can do with it. TerraCycle has done an outstanding job in working with a lot of the major brands and taking packaging back at the school and turning it into other products. The green and sustainable movement needs to be integral to your brand, and you need to figure out what works for your consumer, not just saying, oh, you know, this is recyclable or whatever. And you know, you literally need to marry the message of your product with the message of your package as far as sustainability is concerned. Okay. Okay, here's a question about design elements to communicate their dominant position. This is interesting here. It says you can see, Michael says you can usually see a difference between package design between smaller brands and leading packaging good company. That's true in some cases because they have a lot of money to spend. But I just want to reiterate here, and for example, in the Tropicana rebranding, they spent $13 million and it was a disaster. So money doesn't necessarily equate to a successful packaging or rebranding design. A lot of the new companies that are coming out there and are coming out right now and coming up with innovative or creative ideas of new product packaging. And I have to go back to TerraCycle as a good example. He was just a small entrepreneur and came up with, he first needed to package worm compost, but he didn't have any way to package it. He didn't have any money. So he went out and started scavenging bottles in the trash. And from there, he built an entire business around recycling and reusing product packaging without any money. So the money is not necessarily the answer in all occasions. Oh, somebody wants to know from the UK what happened with Tropicana. Actually, quick recap here for those who didn't know. Tropicana rebranded. They went from the classic orange with the candy cane stuck in it and went to a cool, aesthetically pleasing design. And what happened was that the consumers were expecting to see the old candy cane and old orange on the product packaging, and when they went into the store, they literally did not recognize Tropicana. The brand, the package was so different that they went in and then they couldn't even find there, so they switched to other brands. And it was a complete overhaul, major rebranding effort that went totally downhill from there. Here's some good feedback here. Smaller brands are nimble, can risk going to the market with groundbreaking design. That's great. So I think we're running a little past the time here. Is there any more questions before I wrap it up here? Oh, here's some great stuff. Well, doesn't look like we have any more questions right now. We've got some good interaction between the attendees, and I really appreciate y'all coming and listening to me, and hopefully I can be able to help you with your product packaging questions. We're going to have this as BrandSquare is going to be able to post this video on YouTube, and I think we'll be able to make the PDF available at some point in time. So if that answers all your questions. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the session now. So it looks like we just got some great, and I appreciate all the thank yous, and hopefully I got everything, covered all the points. There's just so much to do there, but I tried. So great, and appreciate y'all coming, and hope to hear from you again. Bye-bye.